Hello guys, welcome back, welcome back. This is a very special edition of Hashput Economics because it's really for my Laws of Enchantress page. It's my new page. So if you're not interested in this, you can just bypass it, but hopefully you are. So definitely go and click on the link in the description box to get to my new page, my new Law of Enchantress page. So I want to talk about this because people ask me a lot of questions about Christianity, and I don't really, I think you should be free to use your religion, lack of religion, no religion, whatever you want to do. It's up to you. I think religion's kind of like sex. It should be intimate, private, and totally up to you. When you want to do it, if you want to do it, and how you want to do it. However it comes to you, it can come to you. But if you're going to ask me questions, ask, I'm going to answer. So a lot of you know that I am Catholic, but I'm very open in accepting other people's beliefs, perceptions, whatever you want to be. But there comes a time when there's a difference between fact and fiction. I don't know if you're familiar with Christianity in a whole, but there's many flavors. It's kind of like ice cream. You could be Greek Orthodox, you can be Roman Catholic like me, you can be Pentecostal, Lutheran, Seventh-day Adventist, Jesus Christ Day of Latter-day Saints. You can be Jehovah Witness, you could be Lutheran, you could be Episcopalian, you could be a whole bunch of things, Pentecostal, Protestant. So each doctrine or each special denomination has a special variation how they celebrate and honor. In the original most oldest form of Christianity, which is Catholicism, that's why we have all the saints and stuff, because it's very similar to how other ancient religions used to worship. And that's why Christianity sometimes frown upon Catholicism, because we keep up the ancient arts, the ancient traditions. So I also want to talk about the fact that many black women, many black women I've been hearing have turned away from Christianity because of the hostility or the lack of women or the lack of protection or adoration. So I just want to say this. I was born a Baptist. I am the only Roman Christian Catholic in my entire Jamaican family. I was baptized a Baptist in the Church of God, okay, in Brooklyn. Okay, so I was baptized as a child. If you're not familiar with Caribbean culture, Caribbean baptism is very ethnic. It's something that happens throughout the Caribbean islands. But the church I grew up in was in Brooklyn, East New York, Church of God in Bushwick. As I grew older, I did not feel an attachment to this church. One of the biggest reasons was that I did not feel any celebration of women, any importance of women. So I actually spent about 2 years with no actual faith going around. This happened when I was about 22, after 9/11, when I lost one of my friends who actually was a devout Christian. And I was not at the time. I was not. So I did some soul searching. I actually looked at the Muslim faith, the Hindu faith, and I actually learned that, wow, there's so many different types of Christianity. I had to say I'd never stepped foot in any other church. So I took the time and I actually went to Protestant church. I went to Pentecostal church. I went to Lutheran, Seventh-day Adventist. I observed. I saw how I was treated. I saw how I was received. I went to all different churches, different times, different places, different states. I even went to the synagogue. I even went to the mosque. I went to Hindu. Everything you could think of, I was soul searching. And I actually didn't even consider Catholicism because I heard such horrible things that it's a bad religion, bad. So I actually went to that Catholic church with my friends. And as an adult, as you know, I did attend Catholic school from pre-K to 8th grade, but just to the school. We never participated in the math, never took a Eucharist, never was nothing. I still went to Baptist church every single Sunday. The reason why my parents sent us to Catholic school from pre-K to 8th grade is because we grew up in a very challenging neighborhood, and they wanted to make sure we got a top-tier education. So the best possible school was a Catholic private school called Our Lady of Lourdes in Brooklyn. So when I got older, I was hearing a lot of negativity about how the black church, this, that church, that. And you know what? Your experiences are validated. But I'm here to tell you something. You do know the Bible is a powerful instrument and people will manipulate it to their advantage. And unfortunately, you have a lot of men who will use that Bible and wield it to, enforce their agenda, which is sad. But what does the Bible actually say about women? What does the Bible say? There's a lot of contradictory parts, but I don't like when people omit certain things and don't understand what's happening. So, as a Catholic, I'm speaking to you as a Catholic. If somebody takes a swipe at Christianity, I am a Christian. I do, believe in Jesus Christ. I believe in that. So, if you don't believe in it, that's perfectly fine. I don't really care because my faith isn't dependent upon anybody else's beliefs. That's not faith, that's science. Like I don't need you to, to believe in anything. It's my personal religion that I came to find all on my own, which means it's more special to me because no one forced me. No one brainwashed me. I was walking around. I was almost like an atheist. I didn't believe in anything. And I had my personal experiences because after 9/11, I'd stopped believing in God for a while after what happened to my close friend, my first friend in high school. She died in the towers, in Twin Towers on the 88th floor. She's working for a company called Keefe Brewing and Woods. And it hit me really hard that this person that was going to church all the time can die in such a miserable way. So, I'm 22 years old. It's 2000, what? 2007 or whatever, 2008. And it just really destroyed me. It destroyed me. I was not prepared for that. And emotionally, I just said, okay, I'm not doing this no more. So I'm not going to give you the whole sob story with that, but I came to find Catholicism as an adult. And it's different than when you go as a child, because as a child, you don't really know the Bible, you don't really read the Bible. But as an adult, you have a sense of awareness that you don't have as a child. And I even said, wow, if I had a baby, I don't know if I want my baby baptized as a child because I want my adult child to make that choice and be aware of the beauty of the church because it's a very beautiful, beautiful religion. It's not perfect, far from it. I don't even want to go into the stuff, but the actual faith is actually very beautiful. So I want to talk about women. That's the part that you guys are waiting for, right? You guys have been lied to and manipulated. I don't know who's doing it or if your church is doing it, but if you go to church, if you're a part of this church and you've rejected Christianity based on the fact that it don't do anything for you. First of all, you're supposed to do stuff for your church. If you're part of a church, they're supposed to be doing things for the community, which includes you. You're supposed to be giving to the poor and helping the sick and volunteering and supporting. And even if you don't have money, speaking to someone that's in need, spending time with the elderly, volunteering your time at a hospital. This is something Catholicism is crazy about. They encourage this throughout the community. Even if you're not Catholic, when I was, back home, I used to see Catholic churches and stuff helping feeding people, Catholic hospitals, cancer hospitals. That's a big thing because Christ did that, right? Okay, so if you're looking for help, you got to be part of that help. You got to be part of the community. Even at your lowest point, you got to be able to give. That's the whole point of Christianity. That's the whole point. It's not for you to, what are they doing for me? What are you doing? That's the whole point. It's a community that helps each other. So if everybody's looking around for their handout, it's going to be pretty hard for you to be Christians. It just doesn't work that way. So on the other point, I hear a lot of rejection because of the women. The women are upset. You do know you have choices. There's over 30,000 sects of Christianity. Catholicism is one of them. I'm not going to go through all the crazy sects and denominations, but I made that choice to leave the Baptist church because it didn't feel right for me. And when I came to the Catholic faith, I love how they honor Mary. You can always tell a Catholic church, go, what's the first thing you see? Mary holding Jesus. We have a very high regard for Mary. We got a very high regard for the mother and wife. That's something that we regard as one of the highest things a woman can do. It is highly respected. Having a family in the Catholic Church is highly respected. So it's completely different than when I was growing up in the Baptist Church, where I saw they didn't talk about marriage, they didn't talk about faith, they didn't talk about men marrying and stuff. Like, it just wasn't there. And even if it was, most of the church was all women. So I'm like, what kind of community is this when 89% of the church is all, you're having a pom pom party? If it doesn't matter what you're preaching, if 50% of the population is absent. So that's another reason why I left the Baptist church. I just saw men weren't participating. And when I was about 12 years old, I asked my pastor, hey, are you going to talk about marriage? Or, because I'm like, when am I going to start looking around here? I don't see no guys. And not that I was looking for a boyfriend, but It's natural. You're looking around, you're getting older, you're getting aware, you're hitting puberty. Where's your childhood sweetheart? Where's that? So basically, the pastor told me, and I'll never forget this. Oh, it's tough enough to get these men here coming here on a Sunday. If I talk about marriage, they're gonna leave. Yuck, 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 yuck. I'm like, what the hell? What the hell? So, even from that tender age, I was like, my parents were married for 40 years. They're still married. I grew up in a conservative household. It doesn't matter about the money, it's just the principles and the values. And I did not see those values reflected in the Baptist Church, Church of God in Brooklyn, Bushwick. I'm sorry. I didn't see it. It's like they were random with it. There was no order with it. So I made the choice to look without and did a personal search. And I was glad it was personal. Nobody pressured me, nobody spoke to me, nobody lectured me, and I was able to explore. And I fell in love with Catholicism because I saw the honor of Mary. So also, they talk about how in the black churches, they make women stay with abusive men. They make women stay with men that are oppressing them. They teach that. Well, that's because that's how the black church, unfortunately, if that's happening to you, that's in the black churches. It doesn't happen in other churches. You're not encouraged to stay in abusive relationships. That's why Catholics have something called annul. You can get marriages annulled for specific reasons. If you're trying to kill your wife, that is one of them. All right. And also, we encourage the love and honor of women. So, as a Catholic, I'm going to read to you what's in the actual Bible in different variations that we know as Catholics, because I see people manipulating the Bible and taking a word. For instance, the submit to your husband part. Oh, you got to submit. You got to submit. So, when you combine submit with abuse and oppression and a church that convinces you to stay with somebody who's kicking your ass, I would reject Christianity too. But that's not all Christianity. You got different flavors, different strokes for different folks. And if you found your way outside of the Christian church, that's fine. If you found your way into Judaism, Buddhism, or I don't know, mosque or or Muslim or Sikh or Rosh Hashanah, I don't know. That's God bless you. But I'm here to tell you what's the actual truth. So this is Ephesians 5:25. And this is a popular part in the Bible that people like to edit. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So the part that talks about submission, they kind of like to leave that part out. So if you're even if you're not remotely deeply Christian, it says husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. Okay, so you're talking about Christ got crucified and died for his mission. That's why he came here. That's what happened. He knew he was going to die. So they're telling husbands to love their wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So you're talking about being worthy of dying for your wife. And in all variations, husband loves your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. It's the same thing. So if you're talking about wives and husband, now as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. So it's not just a piece, but they like to just take out the submission part. So if your man is not fully submitting to God, if your man's not willing to die on the cross and get crucified for you, he doesn't get the honor of being submitted to you. He doesn't get that. So that's the part that kills me. As a Catholic, I learned that. As a Catholic, we were like, oh, so you got to read the entire verse. Oh, and to me, that's kind of like manipulation. It's not kind of, but it is manipulation. It's kind of fucked up. Excuse my language. It's kind of messed up that people manipulate the Bible in that way. There's many instances in the Bible where men went out of their way for women. But again, it depends who wields that powerful instrument. If you have a society of men that want to oppress, abuse, and degrade women, they will pick out the phrases that suits them and omit the rest. You need to open the book and read for yourself, just like I did as a Catholic. Because as an adult Catholic, we had to read the Bible, we had to read the Torah, we had to read the Quran, we had to actually look for all the Christian pieces across other different genres as well. A lot of Christians don't know. There's an entire verse of Mary, chapter of Mary called Maryam in the Muslim holy book. A lot of people don't know that Jesus is mentioned, what, 38 times, over 30 times in the Muslim holy book, in the Quran, over and over. A lot of people don't know that there's instances of Christ in the Jewish Torah. So you really have to, you know, keep an open mind and realize people will manipulate information. This is powerful information. People go to war for this shit. So people will manipulate it for their cause. And so will people that tell you not to be Christian. There will be people telling you Christianity is evil, blah, 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 and blaming it for all their problems as if they can't take a bus and leave their neighborhood. I did it. I didn't think Baptist was for me. God bless all of you who are Baptist. But in my area, in my town, it wasn't for me. What did I do? I did soul searching and I realized, oh, wow, this is a beautiful part of Christianity that I like. So, you know, we're gonna continue. All right. So if you want to see this verse for yourself, it's Ephesians. Hope I'm saying it right. Ephesians 5:25. Okay, so you can see that for yourself. Now we're going to go to Ephesians 5:28. All right. More wife worshiping and self-love. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own body. He who loves his wife loves himself. Again, in the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as they love their own bodies. For a man who loves his wife actually loves himself. So this is a high honor. They're telling you that you have to love your wife as your own body. So unless you want to punch your body, abuse your body, oppress your body, hurt your body, cut your body up, bloody it, bruise it, that's a sign of a psycho person. So the Catholic Church observes this. So this is a covenant with Christ. This is Christ commanding you when he came here to teach his gospel, how to love your wife. And there's a lot of detail in this type of teaching more than any other thing in the book. It's very explicit when it talks about how you should love your wife. And you got to remember, this is profound. You're talking about 2000 BC. This is profound. Because back then, women were not supposed to be loved, period. When Christ was around, women were property, period. When Christ was around, marriage was a business transaction, period. So for Christ to come out 2000 BC, this is some actually feminist, futuristic shit right here. Excuse the language. God, I'm doing your work. You know, give me a pass on the cursing. Give me a pass, son. But you got to remember, you got to sit here and think about this for a second. This is 2000 BC. You got this radical person walking around telling these gully men that you need to love your wife as you love your own body. He's saying you need to love your wife because he who loves his wife loves himself. So that's where when you do all that shit correct, when you get all those ducks in a row, then you have the honor of submission. It's not just submit, 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 submit. It doesn't work like that. If you cannot love your wife as you love your own body, that's worshiping. And it says, he who loves his wife loves himself. So like I said, people will look at the Bible and know it's a powerful instrument and hold it in their hand and shake it and wave it. And they will omit certain phrases just to manipulate and get their agenda across. It's not the religion that's evil, it is the man. Religion is just words on a piece of paper. How it's interpreted, how it's said, is what takes a complete difference. You know, people will manipulate things. People will do stereotypes about black women. People will say things about, it's all manipulation. So you got to be smarter than that. Like I said, I respect all faiths. I got friends who's atheists. I'm about to go see him on Holy Saturday and have dinner. I got friends who are agnostic. One of my favorite people in the whole world is Neil deGrasse. I'm obsessed with him, and he's a blatant agnostic. I'm always open-minded. I'm Catholic, but I pay homage to my ancient African deities because it's my culture, it's my blood. It transcends religion. I got the tattoo of Isis on my back. I have an Isis on my shrine next to my Catholic statues because that is part of my heritage as a black woman. So I'm very open, very educated, very articulate when it comes to religion. I took the time to study Hindu. I took the time to study Muslim and Sikh. I took the time to study Greek Orthodox and all types of religions from the Native Americans, from the Wiccans. I took time to study and I made sure I made a right choice for me, but I made a right choice based on the facts. Based on the facts. Based on the facts. And you can see it here. And to present her to himself as a glorious church without stain or wrinkle or any such blemish, but holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own body. He who loves his wife loves himself. Son, this is in the same submission paragraph. They've been omitting this stuff. Christ said the right thing. Whether you believe in him or not, this is what they said Christ said. And he said the right thing. It's the evil of man that has manipulated and used it to abuse, oppress, and manipulate. If you're not being taught this in your church, you're not being taught God. You're being taught the edited version. You're being taught the cheap version. All right? Look what it says. Indeed, no one who has ever hated his own body, but he who nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church. Indeed, no one has ever hated his own body. So that word right there tells you that they're trying to ensure a woman will be loved and cherished. Because who the hell hates their own body? That's why they said, that's why they're using the analogy of loving your body as you love your wife. Because he who loves his wife loves himself. And it's the highest safeguard. Unless you got married to a psycho and he want to carve himself up and he and he wants to throw himself against the wall. Like I said, you are completely free, and I completely understand and I completely respect everybody's path. But I've been hearing this tossed around my head and people asking me questions and stuff, and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. This is, Hatshepsut. I named my channel after an ancient Egyptian female / pharaoh. I know my history. Do you know yours? And it's not Christianity's fault. The words on the paper fault. The book on the shelf fault. The Dead Sea Scroll fault. That you went to a church that lied to you all these years. That only emphasized one line. That used that one line of submit to your husband, submit. That's not how it is. That's not how it's supposed to be. And that's why I'm glad I made a decision to come to a faith that says, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. I remember when I came back around my way a few times, oh, your satanic religion, you got saints and you say hail to Mary. She's just a vessel. She's just a vessel. Yeah, the person that carried the mother of God for 9 months in her womb without having sex and having a holy, immaculate conception is not just a vessel. God's not going to put his baby in a thought. God's not going to put his baby in a chicken head. God's not going to send his boy Gabriel, your son. Tell that girl right there. He picked her. And if you know anything about ancient times in 2000 BC, hail, Hail, is not weather precipitation. Hail was the way you greeted dignitaries and the highest level of royalties. Hail Caesar, hail Spartacus. Watch some Roman. Go watch Ben-Hur. It's hail was not a way that you say hello. And Gabriel came down to her and said, Hail Mary, full of grace. The Lord is with thee. That's where our prayer comes from. We honor her. We honor her. She raised Christ. She encouraged him to do his first miracle at the wedding of Cana. She was with him when he was being crucified. She walked with him. She watched him die. She kissed his feet. She honored him. The pain of a mother, the love of a mother. Raising a son that she knew was going to be sacrificed for humanity. Whether you're Christian or not, this is why we honor her. Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. This is real shit. Y'all have to y'all have to do some reading on your own. You know what I'm saying? People came to me mad shocked that I'm Catholic. I'm like, oh, you know your Bible? Yeah, because I became Catholic at the age of what, 27? I did it mad late. I started practicing Catholicism and I just never took the time to become Catholic because it takes you a year. You got to go to school for a year. You got to sit down for class for 2 hours, 2, 3 times a week to become Catholic. They're not playing. They want to make sure you know the faith. They want to make sure you're committed. And you become Catholic once a year on Easter. That's it. All the confirmations take place on Easter. I'm going to read this to you. It's Peter 37. Likewise, husbands, live with your wives in an understanding way, showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel, since they are heirs with you of the grace of life, so that your prayers may not be hindered. Showing honor to the woman as the weaker vessel. Showing honor means protecting her, keeping her safe. She's weaker, she's mild. It means to keep this fragile vessel because she are the heirs with you of the grace of life. Women were honored of the hairs of the because she gives birth. All right? The same thing again, Ephesians 5:25, husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. They talk about Corinthians. You know, this is annoying. It's in every wedding. Okay, love is patient, love is kind. Love does not boast. It is not arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believe all things, hope all things, endure all things. Love never ends. As for the prophecies, they will pass away. As far as tongues, they will cease and knowledge. It will pass away. So they talk about love. And I just want to tell you, you got to understand in 2000 BC, marriage originally wasn't romantic. Marriage was a contract. Okay? Marriage was made for business transactions, for Christ and Christianity to come along and say, love your wife as your body. You got to understand how shocking that was in 2000 BC. And commanded man that if you love your wife like your body, no, you're honoring her. Or he who loves his wife loves himself. This is probably to us, y'all don't get it. But for the ones that get it, just think about 2000 BC when no, love was not mentioned for marriage. You didn't need love. Your daughter hit a certain age, bye-bye, girl. You sell her off, you cattle her off, especially if you're a poor family. So for Christ to go around and talk about love and honoring your wife the way he died for the church, that's the way you should love your wife. Be ready to sacrifice and crucify yourself. So you got to understand, by the time it trickles down to the year 2018, and you got people with their own agenda, you got the sexist, male, chauvinist pigs, and you got people preaching to you who didn't go to theology school, who just want to pick out a phrase. The way to decide the sermon for the day is wherever which page the wind blow on the Bible. That's why there's so much chaos. Same. I'm telling you. And there's more here. Husbands, this is Colossians 3:19. Husbands, love your wives and do not be harsh with them. All right? Genesis 2:24. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. I mean, I don't know what else. What else is it's there. It talks about the value of a wife in Proverbs 31:10. An excellent wife, who can find? She's more far precious than jewels. Hebrews 3:14. Let marriage be held in honor among all things, and let the marriage bed be undefiled, for God will judge the sexually immoral and adulterous, encouraging marriage couples to not have sex before marriage. Ephesians 5:21. Ephesians is probably the most underrated verse when you talk about this. Submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. Submitting to one another out of reverence for Christ. So you see what I mean? You see what I mean? See, Ephesians 5:3. However, let each of you love his wife as himself. Again, telling men to love your wife as himself, which is profound. I'm going to say it again because ain't nobody was doing that. Outside of the Christian religion that was forming back then, because it wasn't Christianity then, these ideologies were seen as extreme. That's why Jesus was so controversial. You're not supposed to love your wife. This kind of talk wasn't supposed to happen. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. It's I don't know what to say because you have a lot of people, it's just crazy. All right. An excellent wife is the crown of the husband, but she who brings his shame like rottenness in his bones. So they talk about an excellent wife being the crown of her husband. House and wealth are inherited from the fathers, but a prudent wife is from the Lord. Be kind to one another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as God in Christ forgave you. I don't know what to say. Just so much here. Like, I can read this forever. And I'm not trying to convince anyone. This is what's in the Bible. And it's hard because the Bible is so in depth. It's a lot. So you got to be careful of these private churches you go to because they are allowed by law and by humanity to dictate and interpret the Bible the way they see fit. But in the Catholic Church, everything's uniform. Did you know that? All of the sermons are given out by the Pope and the Vatican, and every single Catholic church has to say the same thing at the same time. At first, I was like, I mean, you got a little wiggle room, but you basically, it's the core faith or the core lesson for that day is the same, even in different languages, because that keeps everything consistent and pure. Like, I'm sure people are going to watch this video and be like, oh, snap, the Bible says that. I can tell you what the comments going to look like. It says here, look, he who finds a good wife obtains favor from the Lord. Let your fountain be blessed and rejoice in the wife of your youth. I mean, it's there's so many things. It's so many things here that you can see. Okay, so you know, it's crazy. It's crazy. So, and now you got the submission of the Christian husband. Ephesians 5:21-32. And it says, and subject to one another in fear of Christ. Wives, be subject to your own husbands as to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ also is the head of the church, he himself being the Savior of the body. But as the church is subject to Christ, so also the wives ought to be to their husbands in everything. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by washing of water with the word. So in case you don't know what that means your husband has to be of high holy, I don't want to curse, but some high holy snap. It's not no around the way ashies. It's not going to be no Nigasakis or Hotep-Shimas or Blackistanis. It's not going to be those crazy people. This is a man of prestige, of integrity, of honor, of dignity, of valor. And if your man is not doing that, he can't skip and go straight to 200 and collect go. Or he can't collect 200 and go past go. It's not Monopoly. You can't throw the dice and hop over the parts that don't like. It don't work like that. So husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by washing of the water with the word, that he might present to him the church in all her glory, having no spots or wrinkles or any such thing, but that she should be holy and blameless. So husbands ought to love their own wives as their own bodies. He who loves his own wife loves himself, for no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes it and cherishes it. So Christ is telling you to nourish and cherish your wife, just as Christ also does the church, because we are members of his body. For this cause, a man shall leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife, and the two should become one flesh. So if you become one with somebody, you can't hurt that person, because you hurt yourself. Beyonce said it, hurt yourself. Okay? The mystery is great, but I'm speaking with reverence to Christ and the church. Nevertheless, let each individual among you love his own wife as even himself, and let the wife see that so she respects her husband. This is the Bible. I'm going to say it again. And let the wife see to it that she respects her husband. So basically, this is what the whole phrase looks like. But in the black community, all you get is this. I'm going to be comedian right here. You see where I highlight the blue? That's all you get in the black community. Wives, be subject to your own husbands. This is Bible.org. This is not me. This is where the world comes to study the Bible. This is not some extreme, Connie had to fight. This is basic. This is not extravagant. This is where the world comes to study the Bible. And this is Robert L. This is the person that is, managing this course, theological seminary, with his THM in 1971. Bob was a pastor, teacher, and elder at the Community Bible Chapel in Richardson, Texas, and contributed many of his Bible study series for use by the foundation. Okay, Bob was born and raised in a Christian home. Whatever. Just letting you know, who put this article together. But this is from the Bible. All right? So ours is a truly intriguing text. The topic introduced in Ephesians 5:21 and extends to chapters 6 to 9 would hardly expect the text on submission to address husbands. Much less would expect the text to spend more time instructing husbands and wives. And yet, three and a half verses are addressed to Christian wives, while 8.5 verses are written to Christian husbands. It's not that this passage on submission spends time speaking to husbands. The wonder of the text is that what Christian husbands are instructed to do. They are instructed to do. If wives are to reflect the submission of the church to Christ, what would you expect Paul to command the husbands to do? So this is what I'm saying. You guys have to, I'm not saying do anything. And the command was, husband, love your wives. That's the command. And that's why in the Catholic Church, if you are not showing love to your wife, what was that? If you are not showing love to your wife, you can have your marriage annulled. If you're showing to abuse your wife, neglect your wife, the Catholic Church is not going to say you got to stay regardless. That's not what it says. Christ commands, husbands, love your wives. And these are the commands. A general call to submission. The submission of wives to their husband. The husband's love for his wife as Christ loved the church. The husband's love for his wife as his own body. Look. There are two phrases. How the husband should love his wife. As if Christ know, y'all be acting up, son. I'm going to have to reinforce that. I have to reinforce that junk twice. Look, the husband's love for the wife as Christ loved the church. And then right after, the husband's love for his wife as his own body. So it's not enough for Christ to say, okay, y'all need to love the church or love your wife as I love the church. And God died for his gospel. He died. Okay? That should be enough because he was crucified. That's painful. When you tell a husband to love your wife as Christ loved the church, he gave him up himself for her. Okay? But he also reinforces it and says, love the church as you love your own body, because no one has ever hated his own body. So I don't know what to say when I look around today and I see so many of my sisters hurting And so many of my sisters talking of how they had bad Christian experiences in black neighborhoods. And I really, you know what? You do what you got to do. But I just want to tell you why I am still Christian. If it wasn't for Catholicism, I don't think I would be. Because I love the honor of Mary. I love the honor of Christ and the love between Christ and his mother. I love to see Mary holding Jesus. I love to see the Holy Family, which is Joseph, Mary, and Christ. I love that we have saints that we can ask to intercede and pray for us. This is how ancients prayed for years. No faith only had one person to pray to. That's a lot of work. Even in the Bible, God be having his people. He sent Gabriel, the angels. He used to have his messengers. That's why he made angels. It's a lot of work for one person to do. I think the only person in the entire Bible that God came to directly besides his own son was Moses, and he appeared as a burning bush, where God came to him face to face and was like, this is me. I am who I am. He spoke through dreams and other images and, stuff like that. But I don't think anybody else in the Bible besides Christ. And, Gabriel came as God's messenger. So you have to remember that there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on. So let's go down here real quick. So it says right here, in this study, we seek to identify the form which a submission of the husband takes in relation to his wife. As the outset, we must grant that all appearances indicate that the husband's submission is expressed in terms of his love. The love of a husband is compared to the love of Christ for his church, and the love of a man for his own body. We will begin by considering the love of Christ for his church. We will then turn to the love of a man for his own body. After this, we will seek to crystallize the relationship between leadership and love and pursue some of the practical implications of this relationship. So Christ loved the church. Okay? Christ died. He gave his life. And the love of the Father was demonstrated through the sacrificial death of the Son. So by this love, God was manifested in us, that God had sent his only begotten Son into the world so we could live through him. In this love, not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be, sacrificed for us. So I'm not even going to go into that. But my whole point was to show you, look at this. This is a Christian. Husbands, 8 dominations to love your wife. Okay? Love your heart. This is Christians talking about loving your wife. The Bible uses the word love over 350 times. Almost 10% of these times are in the Song of Solomon, which comprises less than 0.5% of the scripture. One thing we learn from this is that a husband should use words to express his love for his wife. Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away. Oh, my dove, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. That's how you spit game back then, son. That's how you spit game in 2000 BC. All right? And the person added, I know of no woman who wouldn't love their husband to speak to her like that. So speak to your word, emotional love. Remember I said earlier in my other video, women don't, we don't go through hearings. We are emotional creatures. You got to go by our emotions, not what we say. Isn't that kind of scary? Because I didn't see this earlier. So we got to go by the emotions of a woman. The reason why so many men are confused is because they're not listening. They're not listening to our emotions. They're listening to our words. How many times you get mad at your boyfriend? I said this before in the other video. Sweetheart, you all right? I'm okay. And he's like, okay, you said you're okay. No, her head just did a woo-woo, like Knight Rider. Woo-woo. Her head is switching off. She's pissed as hell. And you're there asking her, if you as a man can't take one look at your woman and know something's wrong, you don't need to be with her. I talk to my boyfriend, even over the phone, he's like, something's wrong. And I can't even hide. I'm like, shit, he knows something's wrong. Even when I'm like, I'm okay, he knows I'm not. And he'll keep messing with me until I'm happy, until I'm not mad no more. That's what a real man does. Not ask you a question and be like, well, I'm confused because you said, please. Don't go into negotiations with some enemies because you'll die. And men know better. Men are warriors for thousands of years. You don't go do, you know what, we're going to do a treaty with Africa today. Well, they said we can go into that area. They said we cool. Yeah, right. You go by emotions. You go by vibes and energy. And men should know that. And they do. It's the modern world that makes them all confused. It's not operating on that feminine, beautiful energy. We talked about that. All right. Love her mind. Intellectual love. A loving husband graciously convinces his wife to him that she's the most important person in the world. By this, I don't mean that he persuades her that he will never leave her. That's not good enough, of course. Does your wife know that you value her above all else? These are Christian proverbs. Intellectual love also means engaging your wife's mind. Many men will hand off their future wife by thoughtful, engaging conversation. All right? Too many men fail to take this habit into marriage. All right. Love her body. Physical love. At the most basic level, physical love, a husband strives to meet his wife's physical needs. An able man who consistently chooses not to provide for the physical needs of his wife does not love her. At the same time, men must help their wives steward God's provision in order to maximize their earnings. Physical love is also complementary. Your wife doesn't need to be a supermodel to receive regular, sincere compliments. Physical love must be exclusive. Taking second looks at other women or caring about their beauty is destructive. Each man must strive to please his own wife. That's from the Bible, Corinthians 7-333. Okay? Love her soul, spiritual love. Men tend to be task oriented, but often we neglect one of the greatest responsibilities, the cultivations of godliness in our wives. We need to become comfortable with the phrase, as for me and my house. Josh 24-14. Joshua understood as a covenant head, his choices had a profound impact of those under his care. He must always think of the spiritual good of his dependents. This means making thoughtful, prayerful decisions, even if they're unpopular. We're going to church today, even though the woman verbally hurt you last week. We must have family worship, even with our busy schedule. These are expressions of love. Love her relationships, relational love. For couples with children, relational love may require a husband to protect his wife from her closest relatives. Be swift and firm to discipline children for disrespecting mom. Resist contradicting her in front of the children. Give her time off when necessary. Outside of the home, develop an interest in her and her friends. Help her to focus on friends that are best for her. Love her humanity, realistic love. Be tender in your wife's failures. She needs to know that you love her even if you are saddened by her sin. Be grateful that she is different than you. A loving husband sees his wife as God's gift to him, even if she's not perfect. Love her calling, supportive love. If a wife's greatest calling to be submissive to her husband, a loving husband helps his wife to be submissive. Some wives never learn biblical submission because their husband really set a positive example. They fight against the counsel of the church. They speak blasphemously of civil authorities. They complain about their employer's policy, yet they demand full submission from their wives. God says all men must submit to a proper authority. You can hardly help your wife if you're not doing this yourself. This is from the Bible, okay? Love her maker, theological love. Ultimately, we're loveless because we love ourselves more than we love God and are dissatisfied with God's provision. This means the more you love God, the more equipped you will be truly to love your wife. By his matchless grace, God draws us out to love and empower us to love others. Okay? Okay? Okay. So there you see. And what I also love is the talk of the whiteness of the churches. So let me explain to you. This is a gorgeous Mary. I actually love this Mary. I want to order this one. And as you can see, this is a black Mary. All right. This is not an oddity. In many places in Africa, Black Marys are popular. You will find a lot of Black Marys throughout Africa, Somali, Ethiopia. This is Rome. This is Ethiopic. So the reason why we see so much white statues is because a lot of the designers and the artists were white, and you make those images in your own image. But there are plenty of African versions of Mary holding the child. I think they're actually beautiful. And these are paintings actually found in Europe. This is Jesus in churches in Europe. So for some reason, America seems to be more racist. If you go to Europe, and I've been to Europe, you will see churches that have images, Catholic, black images of Mary. These are not people's paintings. These are actually African, and these are in some of the churches. And you can see they're well done. These are not new paintings. These are old, But for some reason in America, I don't know why, these pictures are not there. Here's my favorite. This is absolutely stunning. That's a Mary. And you have to understand the maker of the statues and stuff like that. A lot of them are made by Europeans. So a lot of times the artist is going to reflect what it's supposed to be. But this is not uncommon. This is not uncommon to see black statues. This is the Holy Black Mother. Okay, you can see it's not unusual, and it's there. You can see images of Black Jesus with Mary. You can clearly see that this is not something that is new. These paintings and these drawings are obviously old. The style of it is not even modern, and it depends. Like I said, it shows that women were honored for centuries. It shows that the Black woman was honored. Look at these Black Marys. Look at them. You can see for yourself. And it's not like, look at that. That was really cute. But you can see there's a white lady here with the Black Madonna in a church. She's taking a picture with it. I don't know if you can see that. And she's Catholic. And she's showing you that's the Black, they call Madonna too, an ancient tradition. But as America modernized, and of course America has, its racial issues, that's why you don't see it as often. You don't see it as often. I mean, no one wants to see a Black woman with a crown on her head, but that's what was happening, and you can clearly see that these images are not scant. Meaning that if you were to type in Black images of Mary, you'll have access to these beautiful images too. You'll have access to see it, and it's beautiful. Like you can see that the images of Mary being Black with a Black Jesus was not uncommon. I can just take you over here and you can see more of these images, and they're actually beautiful. Like this one's an interesting one with her holding Jesus there, and obviously it just looks a little bit different. But that's what I want to say is that, give yourself some time. Give yourself some time. See Virgin Negra. Like, again, you have to remember, people are going to pick and choose and pull what they want you to see. These are not unusual images of the Holy Mother Mary. They're not unusual images of the Holy Mother Mary in a Black form, in an ethnic form, in a Sephardic form. It's just not. It's just not. You have a lot of images of the Holy Mother Mary as a Black woman in present day time. But again, who commands media? I talked about that before. So you guys, I hope you guys can see the way I can see on the screen capture. If you are interested in these images, which they're really beautiful. If you're interested in seeing, Black Mary and Black paint, that painting is banging. It doesn't even look like a painting. But if you're interested in seeing these images, you can just do Black images of Mary, and that's the search, and it comes up, and it's pretty. It's not even hard to get. It's not like it's scant, and they show you that there's two variations. Okay, you can see the Ethiopic Mary and baby Jesus, and that's the Roman. And it's just that the Romans conquered so much of the world. Remember, ancient Greek and England and Spain, they conquered the world and they brought their version of the images with them. But it doesn't mean that the woman that was wearing that crown originally was not Black. She was Black. And you can see all these ancient images. You can see them there. And it's not, it's just hard. And even when you see Christ, there's the same thing with Christ. There's plenty of pictures. Actually, that's how Christ was shown before. You see, Christ was a Black before. They showed you before, then after. So this is historical content for you. So I hope you enjoyed it. I don't want to make it too long. If you want any links, let me know. I hope this shows you and it tells you a little bit more about myself and why I love my Christian Catholic faith. I love honoring my Holy Mother Mary. I love her. She's all of our mother. I love praising, Christ, and I love the stuff that he said. I love his message about loving one another, sharing and giving. I'm not perfect, but I think it's truly inspired me to be the person I am. I pay my homage and honor to my cultural African deities. I love Isis. I love the culture, I love the heritage and my African ancestors who worshiped this incredible woman for 5,000 years, and I pay homage to it in my shrine and with the large Isis tattoo I have on my back. So, guys, I hope you learned a little bit about me. If you have any questions, I hope I did not offend. I love all faiths, all religions. I think everyone has a right. Like I said, religions like sex should be intimate and private. Nobody should tell you how, when, or why. Nobody should disrespect you. Nobody should question you. But I just want to tell the truth of the Catholic faith, from the Christian side, from the Catholic view. All right, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.